Guys, deluded. Now I'm back. I finished work. I've got home. It feels nothing feels better than finishing work and coming home. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen between being linked with Seri. Allegedly, we're in talks for Seri. Sky Sports have said that apparently Raul Sanches maintained close connections from when he was meant to move to Barcelona. Apparently, we're in talks to get him. Jack Wilshere hasn't made the England squad, allegedly. There's all sorts of business. Colin Lewins left the club after 23 years. Credit to a man who's spent that long at this club. There's a lot of things that's going on with the club. But I'm here to speak about Arteta. Now, I've avoided it. I really wanted to avoid this until it became official. I've spoken about it several times. Like, I don't like to speak about things all the time. But I've quickly done up my pros and cons. Now, I'll say this before I get into it. Firstly, let's knock the elephant out of the room. He has no significant managerial experience. I mean, that is a concern with the job that's needed at Arsenal. But at the same time, you got to start somewhere. If this is who the manager's going to be, allegedly, then we've got no choice but to run with it. And to be honest, maybe the fact that if we look at how football is going, and again, I'm not agreeing with this, I'm just looking at it from a different point of view. Maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing that he hasn't coached anywhere else. To be honest, from an Arteta point of view, he's got nothing to lose, to be honest, because people have been gassing him. He goes Arsenal, he fails. He's a success, which we want him to be. It's a mad thing, and he'll be earmarked for bigger jobs. He fails, he steps back down into wherever, back into City or somewhere else. Either way, he's got nothing to lose. But let's start with the cons, man. If Arteta signs, he signs, man. Let's. And one thing we can't assume, I think he'll play good football and he'll bring through a lot of teaching philosophies that he's learnt from his youth academy days in Spain, down to all the different clubs he's been at, whether it's PSG, where he played with Pochettino. Hopefully, they spoke about management them times there. He's obviously done his thing for Pep, and he's played under and been helping with Wenger. So that's a good little cocktail. And there might be coaches that's influenced him that we don't know. So that's a good little cocktail for a good manager. But we can't assume because he's gone through all of this that wavy tiki-taka football is all going to come here. He might not even give a crap about that. Let's start with the cons. We don't actually know his coaching philosophy. He's spoken about it. We assume it because of his nationality and who he's working for. We assume it, but we don't actually know it. I think it will be extremely expansive, and he knows the Arsenal values. But for argument's sake, what's to say he don't play like old school Stoke City over the top? We don't know that. He's got a good record with helping young players and that, but if we scrutinise it, there's no track record. There is no track record. So yeah, will he command fear/respect? And I say a healthy fear respect in the sense that you need that. I wasn't scared of my team's manager, Darren. Of course I wasn't scared. I'm not scared of no one. But there was a fear in the sense that if I know if I didn't play well, he would tell me and I would know myself. So is he going to command that? Are people going to be fearful of putting in bad performances? Or are they going to look at it, oh, he's our former teammate, he's now manager, woo and for what it's worth, I believe the boys are professional and they won't do that. But to a degree, you can't. I've got a duty to give you guys all my concerns and plus points. So that is one. Can he improve us defensively? Now, he's spoken many a times of how he's helped the City defenders tactically, where they should be when receiving the ball, where they should be off the ball. But the question mark at first team level is still there, at least for my eyes and fans that are not in the know and didn't see behind the scenes at City. So there's that. There's the recruitment aspect. Obviously, he hasn't managed the club, so I do think it's overstated with a lot of clubs, this attracting players. It is the carrot when a manager can get people to listen to what he's saying. But is he able to attract players? Like I just said, this is overstated, but is he able to attract players? And he doesn't have a track record of recruitment history. We don't know if his signings are typically good or bad, which we can with, pardon me, guys, got a scratch, with other managers. We don't know that. It's a massive risk. It's a massive risk. We're sixth on paper, and it could get worse. We aren't Barcelona or Real Madrid in the sense that they brought Zidane from Barcelona B, and Pep came from Madrid B and Barcelona B respectively. We're not them. We're not them. They both could claim to be behind their previous standards, but if you go and look at the league standings or the shape of the side, Barcelona was kind of messed up by their own standards, but that's still extremely high standards. We're Arsenal, and it might not happen with that. I've already said, will the players be convinced? With the likes of Jack Wilshere, Welbs, Ospina, Koscielny, Ramsey, to name a few, ex-teammates are going to have to see him in a different light. Any troubling early teething periods or any defeat, people will question, has he got the minerals? Has he got the credentials? Why were Arsenal so lax and these things? It is a risk, bigger rewards. So the club has known this from as early as November, and before that they've earmarked Arteta. They were vexed when he left the club. So let's start with the pros, man. I swear I had more than that. There has to be a next one. Yeah, I knew it. So pros. He's obviously close friends with Alonso. Hopefully he brings through. He probably think Someone just popped up a message and it put me off. He's close friends with Jabi Alonso. Could he bring him to the club? Obviously, he was a midfielder of technical quality and intelligence, so maybe that could transmit into his players, if he's here. A lot of that could transmit into his way of football. He speaks a decent amount of languages. He speaks some French and Italian, and obviously he speaks Spanish and English. There's many multi-speakers at the club, so obviously that could be a plus point. You can never underestimate these sort of things at a club. I mean, the simple, for instance, Bellerin could be in for a throw-in. Arteta could say something in Spanish. The person defending against Bellerin has no clue what the hell he either just said, and we could score, and that could be the difference in something. You get where I'm going, people. There's that. He demands 110% as a player, as a captain, for what I remember. So on that basis, his coaching should follow it. He's been a leader. He's been a captain. He's played and worked on the big clubs, so he should know. He should be able to transmit how people carry themselves at big clubs, how they handle themselves, and that's to transmit to the side when, in an Arsenal side, which a lot of them are lucky to be at the club, to be honest with you. And we do take it over the top at times and say they don't know how lucky they've got it, but we need people to be reminded of what it means to play for a top 6 club. Like I said, he's changed positions and altered his game, so maybe there's scope to do that with some players that might be past it. The likes of Koscielny might be able to help him alter his game as he gets older, rather than diving in and being an aggressive centre-half, drop off a couple yards. Or maybe there's scope to do that in all other positions. You get what I'm saying? We've only got a budget of 50 mil. There might be scope to redevelop players in that sort of aspect. So yeah, man. Maybe a less familiar / authoritative tone could be best for the players. Obviously, Pep and Wenger spoke of him highly, so again, I'm not just going to take their words for gospel, but they're men that know way more football and will always know more football than us. So if they can see his credentials or somewhat, maybe they're playing up to the media, but if they can see it, then boy. And then obviously you've got Fernandinho has said he helped improve him. Raheem Sterling, who Pep Guardiola said was constantly on the training ground with Mikel Arteta, who spent hours and hours and hours on the training pitch. He's now got double figures for goals and assists. So if we look at the likes of Iwobi, of course it's not at that white and black. He might be able to inspire that sort of brilliance in them to want to improve. Then you meet him halfway, sort of thing. Do you get where I'm going? He was nicknamed the coach by his teammates because of his determination to achieve and reach the coaching pinnacle and achieve something in coaching. It is worth remembering that because of that did divide a lot of the dressing room at times, and I'm overstating it with that. So yeah, man. While at the coach, he was earmarked as being a good coach. We tried to retain him. He was offered the carrot of going off to City and being a first team coach. Why would you turn that down versus working in the academy? He wants progress. He's played under Wenger ball. He's played for Pep. So these things mean he could do a madness. Obviously, as well, people need to remember 2009 he had a mad cruciate ligament injury, so that shows, and he's come back from it, so he can give advice to players that have injuries, sympathise with them and things like that. These are things that go under people's head when you talk about a manager, because these are things that are needed. If you don't have certain things like this, your squad become divided. It's a game of inches, and if you look at it, it's one manager, a squad of 22 minimum plus, and then you've got the coaches in the back room. They all need to believe in you, so you need to show certain qualities for them to believe in you. So when you're actually not at the training ground or not at a match or not about, the standard doesn't drop. I've been at teams, the manager, grassroots teams, the manager is 30, but the minute he leaves, because it's not patterned, man start messing about. And the quality drops, and we've seen it. I do think they try hard on the training ground, but on the pitch, the results don't lie. They've been lacking, so they need to fix up. And as a last little note, where's my thing, man? I actually printed off. Don't check it. Here we go. A little segment into how life with him could be. He's got... Fam, I've got more... Fam, I'm getting shagged, people. Because I printed off more of his comments, bro. Oh, man, forget it, people. I'm sorry about that, people, man. See how I'm throwing up bare notes and that? But let's just go with what I've got here. I had about his philosophy, man, but he's got... Will you set your team up in a particular system, or do the players come first? I think you need to adapt. This is what he said now. When asked in 2015, I believe, an Arsenal player. I think you need to adapt. You can have an idea of a system, but you need to be able to transform it depending on the players you have, how much pace you have up front, how technical your team is, what types of risks you can take, and whether your players are ready to take those risks. It's important to analyse your players because you can't play always the same way. There have to be different details and changes in how you approach things. You have to look at how you can hurt whoever you are playing against. Is there something they don't like to do? If so, we're going to make them do plenty of it. Then the most important thing for the manager is that the Friday before the game, you can imagine what's going to happen on the Saturday. And if that happens on a Saturday, it's not. And if what happens on Saturday is not what I planned, then it's not good enough for me. These are things I've told you I want to see in the next manager, and he said that years ago. So that's what I want to see. Is there any current coaches that who particularly influence you? One is Arsene Wenger, of course. He has a philosophy that's never going to change because he really believes in it. You contradicted yourself in the previous paragraph, but that is the most important thing, because because if you don't really believe in something, then you'll just change it after one bad result, and drive your players crazy. Another is Pep Guardiola. He's also said that, I'm not gonna read this. So then he said there's Pochettino, who was his captain at PSG. Then he's got Belicia, who's another manager. So if he's saying Belicia, Wenger, Pochettino when they were playing together, Pep, this is a good little thing. You've mentioned Guardiola's thirst for innovation, and he showed that when pushing his fullbacks into midfield against United the other week. And this is Arteta's gone on to say, he's always got a reason for things like that. I look to see managers do things differently and add something to the game, not just going out there to be tight and compact. You can win like this, but I don't know if your players are really going to enjoy that way. And I'd want my players to express themselves. You give them knowledge and ideas about what you want to do, but afterwards you need to leave the room for their ability and creativity. You have to learn from your players, and if you can do that, then you can do something new. Right, boy. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? And then I've lost a bit. People, I had a bit printed off where he spoke about philosophy, people, and I'm pretty peed off about that. He spoke about, I haven't got it here, but he spoke about philosophy, and 110% is needed, minimum commitment is needed. But from the things I've said and what I've mentioned on my own 2 pence, you can see that while he might not be the most illustrious name that we could get, the most experience, he seems to be someone with a plan. So with that in mind, he's got my backing. Now obviously as the season goes on, if a man ain't seeing certain things, then the backing will stop. Like I've said, 3 years minimum. He's the sort of manager I'll give 3 years because he's a lack of experience. And it is what it is. Like, we're armchair fans, people. We can't, I'm not these in the nose. We can't change this decision if they're going to get Arteta. So that's just my couple thoughts. But I've spoken in my Q&A, like, if this is what's going to happen, I must admit, out of all the names I've seen linked between him and Julian, out of all the ones that I would say are inexperienced, forgive me for wanting better words, they're the ones I'd go for. But I ain't got nothing more to say, and I'm waffling at this point, guys. Guys, deluded, get in the comments, subscribe, and do the rest. I'm out.